Shug Avery returns to her hometown, a broken down, alcoholic blues and jazz singer. Having left her roots as a gospel singer in the church years ago to make it big in the music industry, then only to fall from grace. It is a struggle for her to enter the doors of the church again. Even after drying out and pulling her life back together, it's hard to enter that sanctuary again, especially since her father is the pastor of the church. Shug gingerly stands in the doorway of the small rural clapboard church to find her father sweeping. Standing there, caught in that portal between the sacred and the profane, she stammers as she tries to apologize for her past indiscretions. Her father, the pastor, simply turns his back on her. And in that moment, hearts are broken. Especially God's. God's trying to tell you something, if you please. The story of the prodigal son is about as familiar as any of the parables of Jesus. Perhaps because we can so identify with the younger son who, for reasons known to many of us, because we've been there, essentially said, I can't stand my life at home anymore. Give me the inheritance you owe me, and I'll go have a real life. No more of this dull existence for me. And did he ever live what he thought was a real life? Party time. All the day and night. Paying for his own pleasure and the pleasure of his new friends until every resource he had was spent. Gone. Every coin of his inheritance wiped out. That was when the real life began for him. The wayward son had to get a job. Unfortunately, he didn't have a clue what he was capable of, and no one really trusted him. So the only job he could get was cleaning out pig pens. Now, don't get me wrong. Noble work, cleaning out pig pens. I know, because I did it myself. Both on the family farm for a number of years and at the county fair. For 3 years in a row, I cleaned the barns out at the close of the Hardin County Fair to earn money for college. It's noble work, but a little too odoriferous for the object of our discussion this morning. So we really don't want to remain in the midst of it. Well, one day as a young man sat in the middle of the pig lot, all covered with the muck of his noble work, it dawned on the immoderate boy that there might just be more to life. He came to a rather remarkable conclusion. Life could be better. If only he hadn't said so many harsh words to his father. If only he hadn't been so sure that his father stood, everything that his father stood for was a waste of time. If only. The if onlys can sure eat away at a person's soul, at a person's self-esteem. There's one if only the boy didn't ask, though, or didn't seem to ask. Notice in Luke's telling of the story that the boy doesn't say, if only I had more money, I could go back to the party. Truth is, he was no longer welcome with the in crowd. He was unreliable now in providing the party supplies. Instead of a pusher of pleasure, he was now a pig poop pusher. Truth is, he understood now how much he had messed up. And he missed the presence of his father. So feeling alone and frustrated, depressed and worthless, the young man decided to go home. Recognizing that the thing to do was to apologize to his father, he began to practice just what he would say. Father, I've sinned against heaven and you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired men. One foot in front of the other, he began the journey home. Father, I have sinned. Step by agonizing step, he drew closer to his past that was now his future. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. The boy tried hard to swallow his pride, but he really didn't have any pride left to swallow, so he rasped out the words, Father, oh Father, forgive me. Not everyone can take such painful steps. The pain and isolation can seem too overwhelming. The feeling of worthlessness can seem too oppressive. The guilt, the shame piled so high, and the self mired in it so deep, it seems impossible to ever be free of it again. The conclusion that life can be better feels like it has come too late. God's trying to tell you something, if you please. The first steps were taken, and the next, and before the son had made it all the way home, his father, who'd been looking for him, saw him, and running as one possessed by love, intercepted him on the road. Looking like a fool running down the road with his robes held high and his sandals flopping, the father didn't even allow his son to finish his speech. As he threw his arms around the boy, the past was not only forgiven, it was forgotten. Cool story, huh? Don't you wish the Jesus response were always the response we would get after wounding someone's heart so deeply? Most of the time, the reaction is closer to what Shug Avery got from her father, the preacher, in the movie The Color Purple. When a wedge is driven between two people in a relationship, the more likely response is a cold shoulder, a turning of one's back, don't let the door hit you on the way out rebuttal. And it feels an awful lot like sitting alone in the middle of a pig lot, wondering what happened to reality. God's trying to tell you something, if you please.
Sister, you've been on my mind. Oh, sister, we threw up a fight. So, sister, I'm keeping my eye on you. I bet you think I don't know
prodigal children one time or another. And I tell you, children, it's possible for the Lord to drive you home. And he can drive you home to truth. And he can fix it for you if you trust him.
Shh, let's sing. God's trying to tell you something. Y'all sing, God's trying to tell you something. Sing, God's trying to tell you something.
So let me tell you something. If I were you, I would say, yeah. Speak, Lord. Speak to me. I was so blind. I was so lost until you spoke to me. My soul. Oh, speak, Lord. Speak to me. Speak, my Lord. Yeah, speak to me. Ooh, I love you, Lord. Speak, my soul. Yeah. Wonder why. Well, maybe God's trying to tell you something. Oh, crown night. Something's gone wrong. Maybe God. Oh, you can't sleep at night. So wonder why. Maybe God. Lord's trying to tell you something. Maybe God is trying to tell you something. Maybe God is right, yeah. I hear you, Lord. I hear you, Lord. Maybe God is right now. I'm gonna praise your name. God is trying to tell you. I'm praise your name. God is trying to tell you. Speak to me, Lord. Oh, trying to tell you something right now, right now, right now. Oh, God. God is trying to tell you. Thank you, God. God is trying to tell you. Maybe God is trying to tell you something right now.
See, Daddy, sinners have soul too.
God's trying to tell us something, if you please. And here's the good news I'm hearing. No matter what our history, whether our story is filled with celebration or racked with pain, God hears us. No matter what has occurred in our past, regardless of any denial that has taken place in our life, in spite of the fact that we are having a hard time accepting ourselves, God accepts us. No matter what intention we had in speaking words that hurt, God forgives us. No matter the ways that we have listened to words that have hurt us, God loves us. God's trying to tell us something, if you please. Searching for us. Ready to run toward us with arms wide open. God's trying to tell us to come home and be made whole again.